do you pronounce your name?
My full name is, it's pronounced Pepin.
Pepe.
Yeah. I generally say Pep because it's just easier for anyone in a different language.
Pepe is a cool name.
Thank you. So, for anybody who doesn't know you yet, I just quickly want to go over this.
Mhm.
You are a speaker, teacher, healer specialized in spirituality and sexuality. What would you say is the essence of your work for anyone who doesn't know you?
The essence of my work is bringing people back to living a life of love and truth. And the work is the journey back to love and truth in whatever type of way that we need to go about it, whether it's addressing our relationships to others, to ourselves, to our sex. It's addressing everything that we've been attempting to hide from, because by doing so, we empower ourselves back to our nature, and our nature is love and truth.
Hmm. I like that. That's more of a return than like getting somewhere where you're not yet.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've been taught always to feel that there's something wrong with us, that something is missing, but it was never missing when we got here. So we are whole beings, we are empowered, divine, magical beings that came here, and through the structure that we got dropped into, which we call our society, the culture that we grew up in, the family structures that have been created in a very unnatural way in a lot of instances, through all of that, we become disempowered. But it's not because we're disempowered beings, it's completely to the contrary. It's that we systematically, things have been placed in order to disempower us. And I find that to be a very beautiful thing about life, because everything in life operates through polarity, through light and dark, through good and bad. And so there is no sweetness without bitterness. And if we were to come here and everything was given to us on a golden platter, in my opinion, we would never really appreciate the beauty of what we have available to us. So even though we have been disempowered in a lot of ways, for me, it's the most beautiful challenge that we were given through that disempowering, and the gift of power to re-empower ourselves, to reclaim our power through those challenges.
So it's actually not that you necessarily see this as a bad thing. The way we've been conditioned to be like away from our nature, it's part of the beauty of it.
Well, I'll put it this way. I definitely feel that life is meant to be lived in a whole other way than how we live it. I feel that we're very far from understanding that kindness, beauty, sweetness, compassion, and love is life, and that violence and anger and destroying things on the planet, lacking gratitude for what we have, that is unnatural to us. So I do feel that life can be lived in a very different way, but I never want to be in a disempowered position in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Even if I feel that things ought to be different, with whatever is in the present moment, I will find the beauty in it. I will find the power in it, because that's how I choose to live.
Right, because that also is in alignment with what you say of coming from a place of love and truth. Then,
Coming from a place of love and truth, but also coming from a place of wanting to always feel empowered in my life, and never creating myself to feel like a victim, no matter what the
mm.
circumstances are. Meaning, do I want circumstances to be different, let's say on the planet? Absolutely, and I'm moving towards that, and I'm contributing in whatever way that I can toward that. But do I ever want to feel like a victim and feel like I'm disempowered through the process? Absolutely not, because I would be lying to myself. You don't
Yeah,
come here as a divine being, a creator, contributing to this collective creation and feel like a victim and a disempowered individual, you would be a liar to your own self.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I first came across your work, I think about 7, 8 years ago. I was visiting a friend. I didn't know about you, but he just said, "Hey, we were with like a few people in his house." He said, "Guys, you all have to lay on my bed and do what this lady says." So I tried it out. I think you were giving a breath work session or something.
Some.
Um, yeah, and it was really nice because I got that feeling exactly like I rediscovered something that felt more natural to me than what was a moment before. So I looked you up, and at that point you were, I think something you said on your website was that you use orgasmic-ness as a healing modality. Is that still, you still stand behind that same message? Or I mean, we're 7 years later.
Yes, of course. And for you, 7 years later, I've been standing behind that message for 15 years now. And will continue to forever, because orgasmicness is our natural state of being. And what I mean is that orgasmicness is our aliveness. It's not just orgasms of, as we have been taught culturally, to be this peak type of ejaculatory orgasm for the man or clitoral orgasm for the woman. It's an orgasmic state, meaning an alive state in the body where every cell in your body is vibrating. That is natural to us. And when we have been taken out of what would be natural to us, orgasmicness being one of them, creating and generating energy to create those orgasmic states is what becomes a healing modality through the purification process that comes with an abundance of energy once it's generated in the body.
So something that I've noticed is when everything is going great, I find it easy to tap into that state. And sometimes I forget what it was like a feeling, just a natural feeling of how what you describe as orgasmicness. And then the moment I realize I've forgotten, I can usually see that something has happened. Like maybe someone close to me passed away, or I went through a period where I wasn't as intimate with my partner, and it's like I walk away from that state, um, and then another day just finds me again. Is that kind of how it goes, or do you actually teach people practices of finding that back?
Yeah, so first we need to redefine orgasmicness even from the way that you're describing it.
Okay.
So I understand that what some people call a flow state, I've heard that in the mainstream, being in the flow state, just kind of being turned on to life, right? Things are flowing for you, you're feeling good. Great. Let's say that's a very mild level of orgasmicness or aliveness. But what I'm actually speaking about is a state where there is so much energy moving through you freely that you can barely keep up because you feel like you're going to explode, implode in bliss and ecstasy. So being in alignment with your life can create that, as you say, in a very mild version. But what I'm speaking about is generating energy in the body in a very highly intense way. And most people find that to be a very foreign experience because most people have never even experienced energy in a way that they're consciously aware of it. Everyone experiences energy. We all feel energy, we're made out of energy. But from a conscious standpoint, most people have never had an experience that's very tactile, that they can pinpoint as an energetic phenomenon. So when it comes to orgasmicness, and even in what you mentioned, there are certain factors that are very important. Orgasmicness happens when the body is open to allow for energy to move through it. So when we breathe openly, when we relax our bodies, when we stay in a place of internal surrender within, then all of life comes rushing in to enter us, because there's never a lack of beauty that life wants to give to you. That can happen in lovemaking. And think about it, how many people actually know and consciously make it a point to physically relax the body while making love? Most people are intentional. How many people consciously make it a point while making love to relax their breath, to breathe openly, to allow sounds to come out naturally? Most people have shame around making sounds, and God forbid the neighbors hear you. So not only are they robbing themselves of that experience, but when you look at how people operate in their day-to-day life, it's the same um, phenomenon of tension in the body, tension in the mind, tension in the breath, holding patterns, blockages, and a lack of letting go. So whether we don't allow for energy to come in lovemaking, and there's a lot of factors to that, because a lot of people have no clue about energetic lovemaking, or what, even if we took out that term, the simplicity and the naturalness of sex outside what we have seen in porn and outside what we have seen in Hollywood movies. Just the naturalness of what the body wants to do when it comes to feeling sensually. So if we don't have that understanding, and then we don't have that as a medicine to also assist us in staying in a relaxed state in our day-to-day, because that's what lovemaking ought to do. Lovemaking ought to leave you in a state of a relaxed nervous system. And unfortunately for most people, after they have had sex, and I'm not talking about a man that ejaculates, loses energy, falls asleep, feels relaxed, but it's not actually a relaxation, it's just a complete fatigue. I'm talking about staying energized in the body, but with a relaxed nervous system that allows one to be in internal silence, to not have the mind be running around, for the body to be relaxed, for one's being to be in alignment with one's physical self, so that you can hear the whispers of your spirit, to hear how you're being guided in this lifetime. And that's where a lot of people really struggle, is understanding how to stay relaxed and focusing on the sex part in this conversation, how to relax in lovemaking to generate energy so that it can help you to become a relaxed individual in your day-to-day.
There's so much about what you just said, like 100 directions I would love to explore. This actually reminded me, I once contacted you, I think was 2 years ago, with the partner I'm currently with, because I was also practicing the things that you advised. And at some point during orgasm, my girlfriend left her body for a while, and I was freaking out about it. But then she came back and felt great. So I had asked you about that. And I believe you mentioned there also being a space where that happens with two people together in this moment right after lovemaking, basically, like when it goes very deep, that you would enter a state somewhere between dream and wakefulness, which you called a nowhere land.
Exactly, I call it the nowhere land.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that, because it almost reminded me of this psychedelic experience where there's a different realm to explore and explore through that extreme relaxation and openness that you just
Yes.
achieve together.
Yeah. So I call it nowhere land because when you drop into that state and you're there, and then you come out of it, it's like you were in nowhere or in everywhere.
Hmm.
because you're not actually sleeping. You're existing in what I would call like an in-between space. And it's beautiful what you say about psychedelics, because there's so many realms that people have experienced with psychedelics, but think about how many realms we've never even touched on exploring, and how much we don't see and how much we don't know. So what do psychedelics do? They create an opportunity for us to have more brain activity than we normally have. And I may have my statistics completely wrong, but if I recall correctly, it is said that less than 5% of our brain we actually use. Let's just say less than 10% for sure. It's a very small percentage of the brain. So when we do psychedelics, more neurons are firing, more of our biocomputer is now operating, giving us access to more information. Sex does the same thing. So when we're generating energy, whether it be through lovemaking, whether it be through some meditation practice, through whatever the means are, we're starting to activate the body, and that energy is going to activate your glands, your biocomputer in all of its ways, because everything's actually connected. Meaning, even if somebody is stimulating the tip of your finger, it's going to be opening an aspect of your consciousness. And no one really explores the body, especially in the my little dog, especially in the spiritual communities. So much of the conversation, not it's shifting a little bit nowadays, but so much of the conversation has been about you're not the body. Go beyond the body. And I'm saying, well, in this lifetime, you're attached to this biocomputer we call the body, and you are one with it. So the body itself is an extension of consciousness. Yes, you fly somewhere. Yes, you can astral travel. Yes, you can go beyond the body, but while you're in it, it is a best friend to you that you get to partner with and work with in harmony. So hence in lovemaking, we begin to activate different aspects of our brain to reach other states of consciousness in the other realms, even up to astral projection. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead.
He was getting ready to have a suicide attempt, that pup.
To what?
A suicide attempt. He was on such a high place trying to figure out how to jump.
Oh. Well, I hope he's safe now.
He's good. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, I find it really fascinating. Like you say, unexplored territory mostly. Um, I could also relate to what you said about staying open throughout the day. It's very easy for me to surrender and stay open when I'm having a relaxed experience where there's like little stimulus involved, or it's just me and my partner. But let's say I go through a work day or there's like a rich social environment. I have moments of like where I go open and then I contract, and it all kind of also depends on who's around me as well. Um, is it the case that the more you can stay open in all that and allow like the life to flow through you, are you also spreading that to the people around you, or is it more a personal thing that everyone has to practice, basically?
What do you think?
It is my impression that you spread it. um, and that's, yeah, I'm asking this because I tend to also see the opposite. If someone is very contracted, that I am less open, and I'm not. It's only when I become aware of it that I see patterns like, oh, every time I'm with this person, uh, who perhaps is experiencing less vibrancy or pleasure, I tend to lock down as well without knowing it.
Right. Precisely. And you also have to understand that we emanate way beyond our physical body. We spread way beyond our physical body. So, as many of your listeners and yourself may know, we've heard of something called the aura. Well, that aura on an average person extends out several feet. And on people that are very highly attuned and carry a lot of energy, that may extend out much, much further. So when we're all standing in a room together, we're actually all intermingling and swimming in each other's auras to whatever type of degree, even at a distance. I'm not even limiting that to physicality. Because you can, for example, be in a conversation with someone seemingly across the world, seemingly with a lot of distance, and pick up so much of their energy and feel so much of what's going on, and either be drained or energized by the experience of interacting with them. And as you know, the way that I work with people, you mentioned breath work. It's not really breath work, but it's energy work, and we're breathing. So people call it breath work, but I say, yeah, we got to breathe. But in the energy work experience, I'm working with people even online that are on a whole other part of the planet. So how does that work? There really is no space and time. We're all interacting together. In fact, the space aspect is easy for me to share and quite common now because so many people have witnessed or even experienced themselves where the work is being done from a distance. And I started doing something, I don't know if you're aware of it, called Energy Tune, which are these online group events where everybody's going through these very powerful energetic experiences and orgasmic states to cultivate this purification process for everyone, for them to experience themselves in another way. So since I started doing that, there's now been hundreds of people that have experienced the lack of space in our reality. But then what about time? And what people haven't really played with is that we literally can interact with our past self and our future self, because everything is existing all at the same time. So we have access to everything in present time. I have access to you, even though you're seemingly very far from me at this moment. But I can even interact with you or even with myself from yesterday or from when I was 5 years old. I'm still playing with that. I want it to be a little bit more tangible to show people.
You mean like to be more specific in teaching people how to explore that?
Not only how to explore it, because I feel a lot of people talk about the exploration. It's kind of like with the energy work. A lot of people do energy work and a lot of people talk about energy work. But most people that have come across Reiki or Qigong or these kinds of practices, they believe in it on a theoretical level, but they've never really experienced like, wow, that was, I felt it. I didn't have to think about whether I was feeling it. I didn't have to question it. I felt it. And same concept as with this. There's a lot of people that will say, of course, you can work and interact with your future self, your past self, but it's still a theoretical belief versus something very tangible. And I'm wanting to demystify the whole thing and make it be very tangible for people to understand. And I'm kind of playing with that right now.
Yeah, I understand. I actually had the opposite where my mother was Reiki. Yeah, was involved with Reiki as well. I don't know how far she went, and I just didn't believe it. You know, like
Exactly.
to me it was theoretically impossible. I was not open to it, and a lot of similar things that she would just share with me lovingly. I would think like I like the idea behind you offering this to me, but I don't believe it. And the only way that I could be open to it was by experiencing things. It's only through experience that I thought, okay, there's just things I don't understand. I don't need to have like a whole theory of why it works. If I can experience it, that's way more powerful.
Exactly. And I think it's very intelligent for you to do that. I think it's intelligent not to believe things just based on belief, but I also think it's intelligent to refrain from disbelieving things just because of your belief. Meaning, people should
Right.
stay in the place of the unknown until the known is revealed to them, and to stay in that inquiry, that curiosity, so that life can lead them to getting to know the mysteries of life, which are many.
Hmm. So, talking about how we all affect each other, then, including at a distance, do you see your work as putting little seeds everywhere that spread this energy of love and affect
Of
things around them?
of course. In fact, I think in interviews, someone had asked me, at least in one interview, someone asked me what I do. And I said, I plant seeds. My retreat is called Seeds of Transformation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I absolutely am. And for every person's heart that I can spark and touch, that's a little seed that's been planted, which I know will grow. And some of them grow faster, others grow slower, but we need more gardeners in the world.
I I saw it because I this also reminded me when you were talking about um, affecting each other even at a distance digitally. I saw the episode on Netflix of Unwell where you were also featured, and there was a moment where you were having a Zoom call. I think you were guiding a group session,
Mhm.
and when I watched that, I perceived that almost as if um, you were making love energetically to the group while guiding that. Is that how it feels for you as well?
Absolutely. Yes. And no. What do I mean? It feels like making love for me
Mhm.
the same way that it feels like the trees are making love to me when I walk through a park. The same way that I feel like the wind caresses me when I'm walking on the beach. So it's not a sexual experience from the
Mhm.
standpoint that we think of sexuality, which for us is very mentalized. The moment someone thinks of something sexual, they immediately start thinking of pornographic images. For me, it's not that. For me, it's the experience of existence making love to me. So, what you saw on Netflix is existence making love through me to whoever was there for all of us to be made love to.
And that is a result of that openness, then? You in that moment, or everyone that is there being so open of allowing that existence to move through you, that
Yes,
it happens?
sometimes people are not even that open and it happens.
Hmm.
I think that if we just require someone to spark us, and if there are certain individuals that are present that have the capacity to bring that spark, that sometimes even an individual with what I would call a dead battery can
Hmm.
get a jump start.
If right now you would be speaking to someone that is a dead battery, that just feels like maybe they're listening and it's like I want to experience what you say, but I'm experiencing the opposite. Like I'm in a spiral of getting more and more closed. Where could such a person start to move in the direction of recharging, of opening up, of allowing that life force inside them?
Very good. Well, one of the main reasons to why people close up so much in their life is because they're doing everything they possibly can to hold on to and control all the negative stuff they feel, all the stuff that they don't like. So if we want to open the body, we need to open and allow ourselves to feel things that we have judged as being uncomfortable, or we have judged as being things that we don't want to feel. So my number one suggestion for an individual that wants to open is, number one, stop distracting yourself. Number two, stop running. Stop occupying yourself and keeping yourself busy so that you don't ever have to feel anything. If you want to be open, you have to give yourself the opportunity to feel through everything that you have been hiding, so that then it can be released and then you can be open. And the main thing, following the suggestions that I just made, is that never be afraid to stay with what is. And most people have such a reluctance to be with what is because of the triggers, because of their insecurities, because of their lack of desire for being vulnerable, or for fear of being vulnerable, not even to say desire. So you have to stay with what is no matter what, so that things can move through you. You are not meant to carry around anger. You're not meant to carry around sadness. You're not meant to carry around unworthiness. And unfortunately, the state of the average human being is exactly that. It's a cesspool of old, stuck emotions that they never allowed themselves to release. And then we wonder why we're so closed. We stuffed everything in, hid it in a closet, closed the door, and are leaning up against the closet with as much pressure as we can, trying to contain it, while staying in a constant state of anxiety. Because that's what anxiety is. It's just a whole bunch of unreleased energy that's stuck in the body.
I can definitely take that to heart, relating it to what I mentioned before, that the moments where I don't feel vibrant, it's usually after something happened which I found uncomfortable. So
Exactly.
I imagine that's exactly what I'm doing in those times, like pushing that away for a bit, holding on
Exactly.
to
So
it.
a really good practice for you would just to do something, and what I'm going to share with you is so simple.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did this one simple thing, it would start to change a lot for you. And that one simple thing is, pay attention to how you breathe all the time. What do I mean? You walk into a room, there's people there, they're talking, makes you feel uncomfortable. You'll immediately notice, if you're paying attention to your breath and or your shoulders, that you've tightened, or you're breathing more shallow, or you're holding your breath. And if you can, in those moments, make it a conscious point, conscious effort to relax your shoulders and or to relax your breath, you will start to move things in your body in ways that you never imagined. And you will also learn that the process of flow in the body, of openness in the body, is much easier than we ever expected when we become transparent in our emotions rather than holders of our emotions.
I love when uh, the tools that somebody gives are very simple like this. It's like
It
applicable for anybody.
do, but you know what? Contrary to popular belief, people don't like simplicity. You can give them the greatest tip to save their life. And if it doesn't sound like standing on a Himalayan mountaintop on one leg while, spinning a ball with your finger, they're not going to do it. Now,
Why
if
do you
you
think
make
that
it
is?
complex, they will. People don't have the attention span to do simple things.
Because they are judged as boring?
They will tell you it's boring, but I don't agree with their experience. What does it mean to be bored? How could you possibly be bored with your magical self being with you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not somebody who gets bored, so I cannot go deep in that experience.
Right, but what is boredom? What do people say is why do they say this is boring? What comes up for them?
I would imagine it's a lack of fulfillment derived from whatever experience we're having. I don't know.
Yes, but why? And I'm saying that it could be different reasons for different people.
Hmm.
But if I'm sitting somewhere, let's say you invite me to an event. I go there. I'm bored. It's boring for me. The people are boring. The conversations are boring. Whatever. I'm still with me. I, with my awareness, with my beingness, can always find pleasure in my existence.
If you like yourself, because that's a common issue.
Exactly. So now we're getting to the point. When people say they are bored, and I understand when we get into a place of lack of stimuli or a lack of creativity, that I respect. But there's certain situations where people say, I don't want to do that, it's boring. I don't want to sit in a room by myself with no stimuli for an hour. That's it. Turn off the music, get rid of your phone, just sit in a room. Oh, it's boring. Okay. But is that what really bothers you? So if nothing's happening, so what? Apologies. I don't know
All
how to
good.
turn things off on my computer. I don't even know where they're coming from. I don't know how to turn this off.
That's the lack of technicality you're talking about.
Exactly.
It's okay.
I don't know how to turn this off because it's not showing that it's even open. It's automated.
We'll let it be there.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
That's
when
good.
an individual says, I don't want to be in a room by myself with no stimuli, I say, why? It's boring. Okay, so what? What? So you have 1 hour of boring life in your life. So what? Just be there. But they can't. Why? Because it's not boredom. What comes up for them is all the stuff that they run from, that they distract themselves from, that they've been holding on to inside. And those are the things that they don't want to face. Just like
Yeah.
in very slow lovemaking, I have heard people tell me, I don't like to have slow sex. It's boring. For whom? If you start to feel it is way more of a party than any circus that you're doing to your friction oriented gymnastics. But if you don't want to feel,
Hmm.
then it's going to be boring because there's no one there. And that's how most people operate. They're never really there.
The way you've just explained boredom, um, I took that as people don't want to be with themselves when all the distractions fade. They don't want to feel what's there. Um, and then there's the indeed the case where a lot of sexuality in our culture is very, it comes from the mind and it comes from pornography and friction and all of that. And when you mention people not wanting to just be with their partner with full awareness and moving slowly, is there something about being with the other person that they are avoiding in that moment, or is it unrelated?
Yes and no. Whatever the other person is triggering in you is actually still your stuff.
Yeah, it's
So
how
it
you relate to
has
them.
to do with the other person, but only because this other person is triggering and creating you having to deal with your own self.
Yeah, I
Like,
understand.
I know people that love to give sexually, but they don't like to receive.
Hmm.
And in a very superficial conversation, just starting to touch on the conversation, oftentimes the answer that I got when asked the question, Why don't you like to receive? They'll say, it's boring.
Hmm.
And I say, huh, okay, let's explore that a little bit. And then whether they're with their partner and we're doing something to create an opportunity for them to have to not bring their attention outside of themselves, but be with themselves because they're being given to. Even in a hug, what comes up is not boredom. What comes up is their unworthiness. I'm not deserving to receive. I'm not good enough to receive. Now, all those insecurities start to surface. But if all we get to is this is boring, we never stay with it long enough for it to show us what's underneath that I'm bored expression, which has very little to do with boredom and a lot to do with things that we don't want to feel and experience.
I've definitely had moments where someone would hug me and something uncomfortable came up, but it was also quite enjoyable. Like, oh, I'm glad this comes up now because I'm in this hug. So it's a nice container to feel it somehow.
And that's a beautiful attitude to have. That's how it should be because all of us have gone through stuff. I have gone through stuff in my life. Everybody has. This is a crazy world. I don't care what background you have, we're all in it together. So, all of us have gone through different experiences, and all of us are going to learn about the different ways that we have come out of nature with ourselves, where we may be doing extra, where we're feeling insecure, things that are unnatural to us. So the attitude of laughter is beautiful. Why? You're playing with yourself. You're going to notice and find things that you've been hiding from yourself, you've lied about to yourself, things that are part of this programming that you have accumulated, but you have to remember it's not who you are. So laughing at yourself, I used to always say that I came up with so much stuff in me. At a certain point, you either choose to laugh or cry. I always choose to
Hmm.
laugh because it's one or the other. The insanity that we have normalized in the human psyche and what it means to be human is exactly that, insane. It's insane for us to be violent. It's insane for us to have greed, jealousy, unkindness, violence. All of those things are completely insane. It's insane for us to be unhealthy. Having mental health is a huge issue nowadays
Mm.
in our society. Animals in the wild do not go to clinics to work on their psyche. Why? Because they're natural. They're in alignment with nature. So what we have deemed as health in our society is insane. When I speak to elder people, for example, it's so common for people to take pharmaceuticals in the later years of their life,
Mm.
as it's a normal phenomenon. I'm getting old. Of course, I'm taking pills for cholesterol and for high blood pressure, the common old people things. But that's not natural. That's insanity.
Can I ask you something personal, Sasha?
Of course.
Okay. So in culture, you always have things that are labeled wrong and things that are labeled right, and that's not always in agreement with nature, like you say. Um, like 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 you say, pharmaceuticals are normalized
Mhm.
for a lot of people. It always shocks me when I discovered just how many people take prescription drugs without even being sick. Well, and in the but there are other things that immediately get pushback on a social level, even when they are healthy. Um, and I think things like energy work would fall under that. A lot of people are not ready for that.
Mhm.
What was it like for you to say, now I'm gonna step into my power and have courage and just come out as this is what I will bring to the world? Did you feel any like hesitancy to do that, or were you were you worried, or what happened when you went through that?
I didn't bring anything into the world pulled me in. So I just always wanted to do what I was interested in.
Hmm.
I didn't have much interest in figuring out life from a standpoint of what is going to be my, I don't know, how I'm going to make money or anything like that. And I think the gift of that was because I started thinking like that very young. I hope to think like that for the rest of my life and to have that attitude for the rest of my life. But I feel that in general, when people are younger, they still feel like they have a lot of time left to figure stuff out. And at that time, I just knew that I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I was on a journey of figuring that out. And I was very much interested in all things spiritual. I was very much interested in magic, energy, psyche, human potential, really, is what I was very, very pulled by. So my exploration of that pulled the world pulled me in step by step. And it just kept going and going. So I never promoted the work. I never promoted what I did. I never even expected to do what I do. It just so happened that I had come across a man that had been doing this work for a very long time. I learned from him. And then somebody requested a session with me. I thought, okay, I guess I'm doing this. Then they told their friends contacted me, then their friends contacted me. And it just was very, very organic. And this is, I mean, internet was obviously a part of life around that time, but not a huge part of life. I don't remember being on the internet or spending time on the internet during that time. So it was very much through word of mouth and very organic. And I never had a thought about it. And I to this day don't think about it. I will say that there was a moment around maybe like 2010, 2011. I can't recall exactly the date, but I had done a demonstration of the energy work that I do. And it was filmed with very poor video quality by a friend. I just decided to throw it up on YouTube. Didn't think anything about it. Well, the video went viral, and the comments were all saying, I wonder how much she paid the actors. This is bullshit. This is fake. And to me, it was so fascinating because it was just my world. And when something is a part of your world, you don't even think that it's weird or
Right.
unusual. It's just your world. So then for me to see this reflection of what was the collective was so fascinating because I realized how backwards we've received information and education to see something so natural as this man. The video is called Man's Full Body Orgasm. To see this man going through an experience and completely think that it's fake, completely be unaware that there's even potential for a human body, especially a male body, to experience a full body orgasm. So that was a moment when I said, interesting. Like I had that contrast of my world versus the collective. But I didn't do anything about it.
Okay. You
Okay.
just let it be there.
Yeah. The thing is, people, consciousness is always expanding, it's always moving, maybe in one direction or the other. But I really see that people are becoming more attuned to a lot of things. And actually, in both directions, with the internet has changed a lot of things for humanity. And we can say that a lot of it has been negative, but a lot of it has been extremely positive. The speed at which we can learn new things and the speed at which we can educate ourselves and have access to information is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So for those that have this spark inside, as I did when I was a young girl, a young woman, because I wasn't exposed to spiritual stuff. I wasn't exposed to friends that were into health or anything like that. You know, it was just a regular average kid who got drunk and did drugs and listened to rap music, you know, or whatever. But there was something inside of me that had a calling for more of the mystery of life. And there are a lot of individuals out there that have that calling, even though their environment may be that collective consciousness, the mainstream pop culture expression of their reality.
Mm.
And for those that have that spark, they will find information. And being that they have access to the internet, it's so easy to come across that. And I'm seeing it now because now as you mentioned, I was on Netflix. I mean, who would have thought Netflix would feature me in the work that I do?
Yeah.
And then even after myself, there was a documentary series about sex education, sexological body work, and all things intimacy. Who would have thought that that would come out on Netflix? So the conversations are opening up.
Hmm.
And what I find to be also interesting, and people have to look at things with a discerning eye, is that the way that they have been able to manipulate humanity is by always mixing up lies with truth. So even when we have access to spiritual teachers, for example, because the last 2 years has revealed a lot about so-called spiritual leaders, they will tell you things that are very beneficial for you and may assist you in your life, but they sprinkle a whole bunch of bullshit into it as well, while you're open and saying yes to them.
Yeah.
That's the propaganda machine. So always be discerning, always pay attention to what you're taking in, and use your own intelligence. And in the meantime, the Spirit will guide yourself, myself, and everybody else that's interested in continuously having these conversations and interests being revealed to them until it's normalized. And I feel like energy work and these kinds of phenomena are becoming a lot more um, received and open.
Yeah. Like you say, the conversation is definitely opening up on a lot of things. I think because of the internet, indeed, people are becoming more open just to consider perspectives and try them on.
Exactly.
And I hope that it only keeps going in that direction.
Yes. Yes.
There's something that I'm also curious about now that we're speaking. It's actually more advice related. In the last 2 years, I think it could be for anybody, but now I'm speaking from my experience. There have been lockdowns and all of that, and a lot more people are working inside now. And it used to be the case that my girlfriend worked outside the house and I work online, and then we would meet at the end of the day, and there was this moment where, like, the moment we would see each other immediately, there would be a very strong polarity. Like, I would just immediately feel very masculine and she would feel very feminine, and there was this moment of reuniting. Now we both work from home, which I think is the case for a lot of people.
Mhm.
um, and we to have that, we actually have to cultivate it, because all day our energies are just very, like, we're getting stuff done, we're working, we're going in a direction, we're both just very masculine, and then when the day is done, we both feel like, and now we just want to relax and take in. And so it's the complete opposite. Then we're both more feminine in our energies.
Mhm.
So there's no longer that natural moment that we used to have. Like, work is done and now we are lovers. That was it, just happened every day at that moment. If we want to feel that, we need to just put our full attention on each other and decide that. Is there anything that you can recommend to people, like a
Yeah,
ritual or it's something small to transition after work?
absolutely. So before even giving the suggestion about what to do after work, my first question is, can you work in different rooms?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So you were both working in different spaces when you had that polarity and they reunited. So keep that separation so that she can do her masculine brain power thing of bida bida bida, and you can do your version without having to have a lot of interaction in this very, what I would call, unattractive space.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a workspace. It's,
Right. I'm
yeah.
calling it unattractive because for myself, when I'm doing admin stuff, for example, I'm the bit like, I don't experience myself as sexy. Let's just say it like that. I don't experience myself as being soft. I'm just trying to get things done. And it's a very different kind of energy that I actually don't enjoy being in, but if it's necessary, I have to do it. So if she's in that state as well, to create the space where you're not having to have a lot of interaction together. So then when you're done with that work, you're still reuniting, and it should be similar to how it was when you were working in separate places.
Hmm.
Now, the ritual is when you finish work, instead of just going directly to each other, have time away from each other but not working. So, for example, for me, going for a walk, depending on the space that I'm in, sometimes just sitting outside. When I'm done working, I want to have the space to not be thinking about work, but the space for me to miss my beloved.
Hmm.
Even if it's just 10 minutes, where I'm done working, now I'm emptying myself out. Now I'm actually starting to feel like I miss him. So then when I see you after that walk, I come with a whole other energy than the energy that drained me in front of the computer.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's one aspect that is a very, very simple practice or adjustment to your day. But if you're also working a lot, and two individuals that work a lot, make dates. And I cannot stress that enough. Even for people that don't work together in the house, even for people that don't even work, keep dating, please. What do I mean by that? People get so intermeshed in this day-to-day and common way of interacting and having sex, we miss out on the beauty of what it was like to date, when I knew that if I'm going on a date with you, I'm not bringing anything else with me.
Mm-hmm.
Not my work, not my kids, not my responsibilities, because I'm excited to see you. And that is my time with you. It's me and you time. That's it. There's nothing else. And most people try to integrate their being with their partner time into the day-to-day chores, responsibilities, and work. So you never fully have that quality time. And even if it's nothing but one time a week, that you literally say, okay, this is 3 hours of me and you time. That could be that we go on a date outside. But what I would even suggest for people that I would say have a more harmonious relating, where they don't need other stimuli to kind of relax them, go into a room together for a sensual date with one another. Like a love space. In fact, I'm in the process of creating that with my partner now. A
And that is
love
the
room.
is that in your bedroom, or are you even creating a separate space that is just sacred for that?
I have the luxury of having a separate space. Some people may have just a one bedroom apartment. Use
Mm-hmm.
your bedroom, but set it up differently. Maybe you light some candles. Maybe you
Yeah.
burn incense. Make a shift and a change in your energy and in your environment to say, this is me and you time. And what happens in that me and you time is us connecting. Whether that is me and you, we just sit in front of each other. I remember what it looks like to look at you with eyes of beauty. I remember what it's like to admire you. I just be with you. Maybe I just touch your pinky toe to remember what it feels like to connect with your body and not just say, hey, I know this body, but to go, wow, that's a little tip of her toe. And I'm feeling that. Wow. Okay.
I love the way you describe it.
And she gets to go, oh, okay, my pinky toe is being touched. Oh my God. It was so much presence. I'm not thinking about work. He's not at work. He's being with me. And not only that, he's enjoying my pinky toe. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
you
a lot for that.
and you love on each other. You make love. You take the time to make love. It's not just like you wake up in the morning and you think, okay, let's have sex before we go to work. Or let's have sex now that we're done with work. But you set a different setting, a different space for that lovingness. And do your best to refrain from having too much interaction when you're in your, I'm going to call it the grumpy computer mode.
Yeah, sometimes there's something to that.
Yeah.
Luckily, not all the time, but the words are not foreign to me.
Yeah, and I very much recommend this idea of having this love space every week. You know, it's just one quality date of, and we're not watching a movie. We're not going out to a restaurant. That's something different. That's why I'm saying there's some couples that just need to get away. And if you need to have that break, go out, look beautiful, see yourself with other people, have other people see you beautiful. But make sure that you also create the space where it's me and you, no other stimuli. Maybe we play beautiful music, maybe we don't even play music.
This is again one of these very simple things that anyone can do right away. I like it.
And remember, the simple things is what scares people. And it's one of those things that will probably scare a lot of people to think, oh my God, I have to be with my partner in the room without any other stimuli but me and him being together, or me and her being together. What is that going to look like? What if
What's
we're
going to come up?
each other? What if he's not attracted to me?
Yeah.
What if I'm so tired I can't get an erection?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, a lot can come up if you haven't done that in a while.
But you know what will happen if you stay with what is? You will build on such deep intimacy with yourself and your beloved. Because it's not about what happens in there. It's about that it's you and your beloved with whatever is happening.
Thank you. I've been asking you a lot of questions. So I want to just say I appreciate the time that you've given to this so far.
Yeah.
And I actually want to ask you about your voice. It's something that my partner said as well, that you have an unusually soothing voice. Is this something that you worked on, or has it always been like that?
I don't know if it's always been like that, but I definitely haven't worked on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel that maybe my voice has changed over time. Just the more that I relax in myself, the more my voice relaxes. But I appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think voices can do a lot as well with how you perceive a person's energy. Um, I have, in moments when I have felt most relaxed, I have seen my partner respond to that just when I speak, and I have had it with her as well. And even with smells, like if she is very relaxed and I smell her, that does something to me. And I have it with friends as well. Like when you see a friend and they arrive and they're fully ready to let go, that smell is like welcoming and it's like home. No,
Yes.
just but the natural smell, which you don't smell often because a lot of people cover it up.
Yes.
But those things are can really do a lot with how I perceive a person. So I have that with your voice as well. It makes me feel at ease. It's good. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
is there anything that you long to be asked or to talk about, but you never get the chance to because people have questions prepared?
No, because I never actually have an idea of where the conversation is going to go, and
Mhm.
I'm open to share anything about anything. So I'm just always open to wherever they want to take it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then, I really want to thank you
I
for
know
this.
there is a topic.
Okay,
I
go
will
ahead.
touch on it very, very briefly. And this topic became a topic that I wanted to talk about starting about 2 years ago.
Okay, I'm curious.
I won't go too deep into the topic, but I will say that what's happening in the world and the manipulation and the control and the fear is a whole bunch of propaganda. And people need to be very mindful and be fearless and use their intelligence. And please research outside of mainstream media so that you can be the creator of your life, govern your life, and stay an enlightened, beautiful human being without being controlled by malevolent energies.
So you're talking about spreading fear through, yeah, any kind of media channels,
Yes,
and not being hacked by that, basically, like not becoming fearful yourself or becoming how would I say it, like that you stop being in touch with yourself and you're only hearing
correct.
what's being said.
Not just mainstream media. Always use your own discernment. You can feel when something is a lie. You can feel when something is off. Trust in that and never be manipulated by the masses, never be manipulated by anybody. Trust in yourself, follow your own intuition, and if need be, do research, but outside of the main propaganda channels so that you are not moved in directions that will work against you and your spirit.
So when you go outside of the traditional mainstream media and you're looking to find what is true for you
Mhm.
while reading, how would you discern in your body, or how would you discern that what you are reading is true or is just another propaganda machine which is not mainstream?
Um, Truth, I read a quote once. In fact, it's on my Instagram. It's someone else's meme that I put up.
Mm-hmm.
Something like, oh gosh, I'm going to say it completely wrong, but it's something about that a truth never needs to be proven.
Mm-hmm.
Lies do.
Because when you get faced with the truth, it is apparent that it is truth. You just know.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you have to think about it even in regular life. When someone's lying, they talk a lot.
Yeah.
If someone's speaking truthfully, they're usually straight and to the point.
Yeah. Because often, if you find yourself having to defend the truth, you're stuck with, well, what can I say? It's true and I've presented it.
And when you're researching things, use your intelligence. With what's been going on for the last 2 years, you really don't even need to rely on media sources. Use your intelligence to connect the dots. You don't need to know that so much. You just need to know things that don't make sense. And I will start off with just one simple little thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense for me that there's a deadly pandemic and something is so horrific and so bad, and yet everybody's going out to eat at restaurants using the same silverware, the same glasses, going shopping in the mall, touching everything. How is that a possibility? That doesn't make sense. Why does it make sense to do social distancing while standing in line to board a plane, while then being in an enclosed plane space, squished between two people sitting right next to you, and that's okay, but boarding the plane, you have to have social distancing? things don't make sense.
So much more important than researching, it would be to just ask questions.
Yeah, always
Okay.
ask questions. But the thing is the research is the answers to questions.
Hmm.
Sometimes all we have to do is come up with a question. And when I say research, you can do it actively, but you can even do it because you meet somebody on the street and they start a conversation with you, and all of a sudden your spirit pulled them in to answer the question that you came up with just through your own inquiry. Question everything and use your intelligence. That's all I'm going to say.
I think that's
Or,
generally good advice.
yeah.
I like that you say it like this, um, that you're not saying this specific truth is the truth you should believe, because then
You can
it
say
opens the door for doing the same thing.
everyone else.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm not telling anybody what to do ever. All I'm sharing with them is information that I know, and then I always tell them, go test it, go try it out, go play with it. Let it be your own knowledge, your own wisdom, your own experience. Just like with you, with your mom, and your experience with energy work, you heard about it, and then you had to have your own experience.
Indeed. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Good.
for asking me if there is something that I wanted to touch on. That was my inspiration that wanted to come out.
Well, I think it's important. I feel like asking questions is, in a way, there's some level of taking to it. I mean, there's a synergy because in a conversation, you're also giving the person the opportunity to have the question be asked and see what comes up. But if I'm only just asking what I would love to hear from you, I think it's important that you can also ask or make this whatever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
And
Say hello to your partner.
I will do so. She will be happy to watch this as well, I think.
Great.
If there's anyone who wants to work with you, who wants to go to a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
where do they find you right now?
So all the information will always be found on my website, which is sashacobra.com. I'm planning to do some energy tune sessions in the next couple months, very soon. And those are the energy work online in group setting. And then I also have a retreat in September and another one in October. It's almost sold out, but we do have spaces for more men. So men out there, get your butts in there.
Right.
It's kind of been an interesting process for me because I don't know if you're aware of this, but the first 8 years of me doing this work, I worked only with men.
Yes.
Everything was for men, and that was my community. I had a hard time getting women to come to my events. And now how the tables have turned. Women have flooded my mailing list. So the moment that I put out an event, they grab up all the tickets. And I'm still waiting for the men to slowly.
All right. So, men, if you're listening, I'll put the link underneath this as well.
Beautiful. Thank
and
you.
say hi to your dog.
I will. He needs my attention. He's a puppy. All right. Well, it was a pleasure to share. Pleasure to connect with you.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah, thank you for creating the space.